My name is Adam, and today I'm thrilled to be here with my amazing co-host, Julia, as we dive into an important topic that every learner faces at some point. We're going to talk about the power of patience, especially when it comes to learning new skills like mastering a language.
Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're so excited about today's topic because patience is something that all of us, as learners, struggle with at some point. Whether you're just starting to learn English or you're well on your way, understanding and practicing patience can make a huge difference in your journey.
Absolutely, Julia. Learning any new skill takes time, but language learning in particular is something that really tests our patience because it's such a gradual process. Unlike some skills where you might see immediate results, with English or any language, progress can feel slow, even when you're putting in a lot of effort. But here's the good news. Patience can transform your learning experience. It can make the journey more enjoyable, help you stay motivated, and allow you to appreciate all the small achievements along the way.
Yes, and we're here to help you understand why patience is not just an option, but an essential part of the learning process. Today we'll discuss how patience can be your best friend when learning English, and we'll give you some helpful tips to develop a patient mindset. And for those of you who sometimes feel like giving up because you're not seeing fast results, this episode is especially for you.
That's right, Julia. And as part of the English Globe, our mission is to help you not only learn English, but to really enjoy the process. We know that learning can be challenging, and it's easy to feel frustrated if you don't see big improvements right away. But with patience, you can find a rhythm that works for you, one that keeps you motivated and makes learning feel like an adventure rather than a chore. Exactly. And, by the way, if you're new here or if you're looking for more resources to support your English learning journey, we'd love for you to check out our YouTube channel, The English Globe. We offer a wide range of videos that cover everything from basic vocabulary to advanced grammar, and they're all designed to help you build your language skills step by step.
Yes. At the English Globe, we're dedicated to providing practical lessons and engaging content that makes learning feel approachable. Whether you're practicing vocabulary, pronunciation, or trying to master conversational skills, our channel is full of resources that can really complement your journey.
So, in today's episode, we're going to look at patience in a detailed and practical way. We'll discuss what patience really means, the benefits it brings to your learning process, and some real-life examples to show you how powerful patience can be. And of course, we'll share some actionable tips to help you build this essential skill. Yes, because patience is not only about waiting, but about staying committed, calm, and positive throughout the learning journey. Sometimes we think patience means we're just standing still, but in reality, patience is one of the strongest foundations for real, lasting growth.
That's a great point, Adam. And we'll be exploring that idea throughout this episode, that patience is not just a passive thing, but an active part of learning. When you approach learning English, or any skill, with patience, you're giving yourself the freedom to make mistakes, to learn at your own pace, and to enjoy every small step along the way. So, let's dive into this topic and discover how patience can truly change the way you learn.
All right, everyone. So, sit back, relax, and let's get started. We hope that by the end of this podcast, you'll feel more confident, motivated, and patient on your English learning journey. And remember, we're here to support you every step of the way. So now that we've set the stage for our discussion, let's take a moment to really understand what we mean when we talk about patience. You know, patience is one of those words that we hear often, but it can be a little difficult to explain, especially in a way that captures its true importance. In simple terms, patience is the ability to stay calm and composed, even when things aren't happening as quickly as we might want. It's a kind of inner strength that helps us keep going, even when progress seems slow or when we face obstacles that make us want to stop.
Yes, that's a wonderful explanation, Adam. Patience is about allowing ourselves the time to learn, to grow, and to improve at our own pace. Imagine if every time we didn't understand something immediately, we felt frustrated and decided to quit. We would never really learn anything, would we? But when we're patient, We understand that not everything comes instantly and that it's okay to take things one step at a time. Patience allows us to appreciate each small step forward, even if it's tiny, and to stay positive, knowing that each little effort counts towards something bigger.
Absolutely, Julia. And I think patience is something we experience in many areas of life. For example, think about a young child learning how to walk. It's not something they can just do right away. They try to stand up, they wobble, they fall over, and then they get back up and try again. They keep doing this day after day until eventually they take their first steps. No one expects them to walk perfectly on the first try, and no one would ever tell them to give up just because they fell down a few times. That's a perfect example of patience in action, both from the child who keeps trying and from the parents who watch and encourage them patiently, knowing that with time, they will succeed.
That's such a beautiful example, Adam. And it really highlights why patience is so essential for success in any area, especially when it comes to learning something new, like a language. Learning English, for instance, is not something that happens overnight. It requires practice, time, and a willingness to go through moments of confusion or even frustration. There will be times when you may feel like you're not improving or when you struggle with certain words or phrases. But patience reminds us that this is all a part of the journey, and that with steady, consistent effort, we'll get where we want to go.
Exactly, Julia. Patience is the thing that keeps us moving forward, even when progress feels invisible. Think about someone who's trying to learn how to play an instrument, like the piano. When they first start, they can't play a single song. They're just learning where to place their fingers, practicing individual notes, and probably making a lot of mistakes. But with patience, they come back to it day after day, and little by little, those individual notes start to sound more like music. Eventually, they're able to play an entire song. That success, however, is built on the patience to practice slowly and consistently, even when it feels like they're not getting anywhere.
Yes. And it's important to remember that patience is really about believing in the process, trusting that each day of practice and effort adds up. It's easy to feel like we're not moving forward if we're only focused on the end goal, like speaking English fluently or playing a song perfectly. But patience helps us to see the value in each day of practice, each small improvement, and even each mistake. These are all steps forward, and with patience we can appreciate them instead of rushing or feeling frustrated. In fact, if we're patient, learning becomes much more enjoyable, because we can take the time to truly absorb each lesson and celebrate each small success.
That's a fantastic point, Julia. Patience allows us to focus on the process rather than just the final outcome, and that's why it's so essential for real, lasting success. When we're patient, we give ourselves the freedom to learn without pressure, without the need to be perfect immediately. And this mindset is so important in language learning, where progress can sometimes feel very slow. But each time we practice, we're building a solid foundation, even if we can't see it right away. Patience reminds us that all of our hard work will pay off in time, and it helps us to keep our energy and motivation up throughout the entire journey.
Exactly, Adam. So, to everyone listening today, remember that patience is your ally. Whether you're just starting to learn English or you've been practicing for a while, patience will help you stay positive, focused, and committed. It's like having a trusted friend who reminds you that it's okay to go slow, that it's okay to take your time, and that you're doing great, even if you don't see the results right away. With patience, you can enjoy the journey without constantly worrying about how far you still have to go. So let's embrace patience as a strength and a tool that will guide us through all the ups and downs of learning.
Absolutely, Julia. Patience is what transforms the learning process from something that feels challenging and stressful into something that's positive, manageable, and enjoyable. So, as we move forward in this episode, we'll be exploring how patience can shape your learning journey in ways you may not have thought about, and we'll be sharing some helpful strategies to build and strengthen this essential skill. So stay with us, because we're just getting started. All right, so now that we understand what patience is and why it's such an important part of learning, let's dive into some of the specific benefits patience brings to the learning process. Let's start with one of the biggest challenges most learners face: frustration. We've all experienced that moment when we're trying to learn something, whether it's English or any other skill, and things just don't seem to click. It's in these moments, when we're not seeing immediate results, that frustration can easily set in. And if we're not careful, frustration can make us want to give up altogether.
That's so true, Adam. Frustration can feel overwhelming, especially when we have high expectations and feel like we're not meeting them as quickly as we'd hoped. But this is exactly where patience can help us. Patience allows us to take a step back and say, it's okay if I don't get it right away. It's okay to take my time. When we're patient, we're much less likely to let frustration take over because we're not focused solely on immediate results. Instead, we understand that progress takes time and that it's completely normal to make mistakes along the way.
Exactly, Julia. Patience acts like a buffer, a kind of shield that protects us from the frustration that can often lead us to question ourselves or our abilities. When we're patient, we don't let those little setbacks get to us as much. Instead of feeling discouraged, we can remind ourselves that each attempt, even the ones that don't go perfectly, is still a step in the right direction. Patience helps us approach each learning moment with calmness, knowing that it's all part of the process and that each mistake or misunderstanding is an opportunity to learn something new.
Yes. And what's really interesting, Adam, is that patience also plays a big role in keeping our motivation high. Think about it. When we're not patient, we often end up focusing only on how far we still have to go, which can make the journey feel exhausting and endless. But when we're patient, we start to value each small step forward. Patience allows us to celebrate the little victories, maybe understanding a new word, pronouncing a phrase correctly, or even just feeling a bit more comfortable speaking English. These small achievements may not seem huge, but they're incredibly motivating because they remind us that we are moving forward.
That's such a great point, Julia. Patience helps us see progress in a positive light, even if it's small. And the amazing thing is that when we celebrate these small wins, it keeps us motivated to keep going. Instead of feeling like we're not doing enough, patience shows us that every bit of effort counts and that every day of practice is bringing us closer to our goal. This positive outlook can be really powerful because motivation is something that can come and go, especially with a long-term goal like learning a language. But with patience, we have a steady source of motivation that comes from appreciating each step we take, no matter how small.
Absolutely, Adam. And I think that when we have that steady source of motivation, it also helps us build something even more valuable: self-confidence. You see, when we're patient and we allow ourselves to learn gradually, we start to build a strong foundation of knowledge and skills. Instead of rushing through things and feeling unsure about what we know, patience allows us to truly absorb each lesson, to practice, and to get comfortable. This steady approach means that over time, we begin to feel more confident because we know we've taken the time to really understand and master each step before moving on.
Yes, and self-confidence is such an important part of learning, especially in something like language, where we might feel nervous or shy at first. With patience, we're not constantly pushing ourselves to be perfect right away. Instead, we're building confidence gradually by recognizing our own progress, step by step. Each day we practice with patience is another day that our confidence grows a little bit more. And as our confidence builds, it actually makes learning even easier because we start to believe in our own abilities. We're not as afraid to make mistakes, and we feel more comfortable putting ourselves out there.
Exactly, Adam. It's almost like patience creates a positive cycle. We avoid frustration, which keeps us motivated, and that motivation allows us to build confidence over time. And when we're confident, we feel even more motivated to keep learning and improving. It's a steady, reinforcing process that can completely transform the way we feel about learning. With patience, we're able to turn each small achievement into a source of pride, which gives us the courage to keep going and to believe that we're capable of reaching our goals.
That's so true, Julia. And this confidence, built through patience, doesn't just apply to language learning. It's something we can carry with us into other areas of life. The ability to approach challenges with patience and to recognize our own progress step by step is a skill that can make us more resilient and positive in everything we do. So in a way, when we practice patience in learning, we're also practicing a valuable life skill that can help us in all sorts of situations.
Absolutely, Adam. Patience teaches us that success isn't about rushing or being perfect right away. It's about giving ourselves the time and space to grow, to learn, and to improve at a steady pace. And I think that's a lesson worth remembering, whether we're learning English or tackling any other goal. Patience shows us that every step we take, no matter how small, is valuable. It reminds us that learning is a journey, and that each day we're moving a little closer to where we want to be.
So to everyone listening, remember that patience is not just about waiting. It's about trusting in the process, staying motivated through each little success, and building a solid foundation of self-confidence. When we approach learning with patience, we're setting ourselves up for long-term success, not just in language, but in all areas of life. And that's one of the most valuable gifts we can give ourselves.
Exactly, Adam. So, let's keep practicing patience, appreciating each step, and enjoying the journey. With patience, every moment of learning becomes something to be proud of. And we're here to support you every step of the way on your English learning journey with the English Globe.
All right, now let's talk about something every learner faces at some point: challenges and obstacles. When we set out to learn something new, like English or any other skill, it's natural to feel excited and hopeful in the beginning. But soon enough, we run into moments where things just don't go as planned. Sometimes we don't understand a new concept right away, or maybe we feel like we're not improving as quickly as we'd hoped. These moments can make us question our abilities and even our motivation to continue.
Exactly, Adam. These challenges are often where our patience is truly tested. For example, let's say you're learning English, and you come across a grammar rule or pronunciation that just doesn't make sense to you. You try reading about it, practicing it, and even listening to examples, but it still feels confusing. It's natural to feel frustrated when this happens. You might start to wonder if you're really cut out for this, or if learning English is just too hard. But here's where patience comes in. It reminds us that learning isn't always going to be smooth. Sometimes we need to revisit a concept many times before it truly clicks.
Absolutely, Julia. And I think one of the biggest obstacles for learners is that they expect to understand everything immediately. But the truth is, no one becomes fluent overnight. Learning a language, especially one as complex as English, requires time and repeated exposure to new concepts. We can't expect ourselves to get everything right on the first try. There are going to be times when we don't understand certain words, phrases, or even cultural references. These are all normal parts of the learning journey. But in these moments, it's essential to remind ourselves to stay calm and patient.
That's such a good point, Adam. I think one of the best things we can do when facing these obstacles is to remember that progress doesn't happen in a straight line. There are times when it feels like we're moving forward, and then suddenly we hit a bump in the road. It's these bumps, these challenging moments that really test our commitment and patience. And they're also the moments that help us grow the most. Each time we face a challenge and choose to keep going, we're building resilience. We're training ourselves to approach future obstacles with more confidence because we know we've overcome difficulties before.
Exactly, Julia. In a way, these challenges can even become valuable learning experiences on their own. When we encounter something difficult and have to work through it slowly, we often end up learning more deeply than we would have if everything had been easy. Let's say, for example, you're trying to improve your English speaking skills. You might find it hard at first to remember certain vocabulary or to use the correct grammar in real-time conversations. But by practicing patiently and allowing yourself to make mistakes, You're actually strengthening your understanding of the language. Each small obstacle you overcome adds to your skill and confidence.
Absolutely, Adam. And for everyone listening, it's also important to have strategies in place for when you feel that frustration building up. One helpful tip is to take short breaks when you feel overwhelmed. Sometimes, when we're faced with something we don't understand, stepping away for a few minutes can help us come back with a clearer mind. Another tip is to set small, achievable goals. Instead of aiming for complete mastery in one day, focus on making tiny improvements. This might mean learning one new word, practicing a specific phrase, or reviewing a challenging concept. Small goals make the learning process feel less intimidating and give us regular moments of accomplishment to stay motivated.
Those are great tips, Julia. I also think it's helpful to remind ourselves of the bigger picture. When we get stuck on a particular topic or feel like we're not making enough progress, it's easy to forget why we started in the first place. So, during those challenging moments, take a moment to think about your end goal. Imagine yourself speaking English fluently, communicating confidently, and enjoying conversations in English. Keeping that vision in mind can give us the boost we need to push through the tough moments.
Yes, Adam. And it's also helpful to remember that you're not alone in this journey. Many people around the world are also learning English, and they face similar challenges. Reaching out to others, whether it's in a study group, online community, or even just a friend who's also learning, can make a big difference. When we share our struggles, we realize that they're normal and that other learners understand what we're going through. It's incredibly encouraging to know that others have faced similar obstacles and found ways to overcome them.
That's so true, Julia. Sometimes, just knowing that we're not alone in facing challenges can help us feel more patient with ourselves. Learning with others, or even just talking about your learning experiences, can provide a sense of support and accountability. And, in addition to social support, I think it's also helpful to celebrate small successes along the way. Maybe you finally understand a grammar rule you've been struggling with, or you were able to speak English for a full minute without hesitation. These are achievements worth celebrating. Recognizing these small victories gives us the positive reinforcement we need to keep going.
Yes, Adam. Celebrating those wins is so important. And the best part is, every little accomplishment builds up over time. Each time we overcome an obstacle, no matter how small, we're adding to our progress and building up our confidence. It's all part of the journey. And when we look back, we'll realize that those challenges and obstacles we faced were actually key steps that helped us grow. So, to all our listeners, remember that facing challenges doesn't mean you're failing. It simply means you're learning and growing, which is exactly what this journey is all about.
Well said, Julia. Learning is rarely a straight line, and patience is what keeps us moving forward, even when things get tough. So, whenever you feel challenged, try to stay calm, focus on your small goals, celebrate each step, and remind yourself of the bigger picture. With patience, every obstacle becomes just another step closer to success. All right, now that we've covered the importance of patience and some of the challenges that test it, let's dive into the practical side. How can we actually build patience while learning English or any other skill? Developing patience isn't something that happens overnight. It's a skill in itself that we have to work on bit by bit. One of the most effective strategies for this is breaking down learning into smaller, manageable steps. For example, instead of trying to tackle an entire English grammar book at once, you can focus on one small topic, like learning to use present simple or past simple tenses, and practice them until you feel comfortable. By narrowing your focus, you're giving yourself a clear, achievable target, which makes it easier to stay patient.
Absolutely, Adam. When we set small, manageable steps, it's like creating mini goals that build up to the larger goal over time. Each small step becomes something we can focus on fully without feeling overwhelmed by everything else there is to learn. Think of it as building a house. You start with one brick at a time, rather than trying to place every brick all at once. So, for learning English, maybe one day you work on basic vocabulary for household items, and the next day you focus on learning simple phrases for greeting people. By doing a little at a time, you'll start seeing progress in specific areas, which encourages you to keep going. And this approach of focusing on small, clear steps really helps us stay patient because we're seeing progress without the stress of trying to understand everything at once.
That's a great comparison, Julia. It's like building our skills brick by brick. Another practical tip for developing patience is setting realistic goals. When we set our sights too high, we can easily end up feeling frustrated if we don't meet those expectations right away. But when we set realistic, achievable goals, it becomes easier to stay patient because we know that what we're aiming for is possible. For example, instead of saying, "I want to speak fluent English by the end of the month," which might be overwhelming, you could set a goal like, "I want to learn 10 new words each week," or "I want to have a short conversation in English by the end of the month." These kinds of realistic goals help keep us motivated, and because they're within reach, they allow us to be patient as we work towards them.
Yes. And I think realistic goals go hand in hand with celebrating small achievements. Learning a new language, or any skill, is made up of a lot of little victories along the way. Maybe today you successfully understood a short English conversation on a podcast, or you remembered how to use a tricky word in a sentence. Each of these moments is an achievement, and by taking a moment to celebrate them, we're reminding ourselves that we're making progress, even if it's not always obvious. Celebrating these small wins helps keep our patience strong because it reinforces the idea that we're moving forward. Every small step is a part of the journey, and recognizing these steps keeps us feeling positive about our progress.
Exactly, Julia. Celebrating small achievements also keeps our motivation high. When we're able to see and appreciate even the small things we've accomplished, we're more likely to keep going because we feel encouraged by our progress. So, let's say you've been practicing speaking English with a friend or a tutor, and today you managed to speak for 5 full minutes without stopping. That's a big step, even if it's not fluency yet. When we allow ourselves to feel good about those moments, it becomes much easier to stay patient and to trust that we're on the right path, even if we still have a lot more to learn.
Exactly, Adam. And speaking of staying on the right path, using helpful resources like the English Globe can make a big difference in helping you stay patient and motivated. When we have the right tools and resources, learning becomes easier and more enjoyable. For example, the English Globe offers a variety of resources like videos, podcasts, and interactive exercises that help make learning English more interesting and accessible. When you're using resources that you enjoy and that help you learn effectively, it's easier to stay patient because you're engaged in the process. Instead of feeling like learning is a chore, it becomes something to look forward to. So, for anyone looking to build patience, finding good resources that suit your learning style can make all the difference.
Yes, having supportive resources like the English Globe is definitely a great way to keep learning interesting. The materials are designed to take you step by step, from basic topics to more advanced ones, so you can see your progress without feeling overwhelmed. And since you can learn at your own pace, you don't have to rush. You can focus on each lesson until you feel confident before moving on. Having a structured approach like this helps you stay patient because you're following a clear plan and you know you're building a strong foundation. Plus, with resources you enjoy, learning doesn't feel so much like work. It feels like an opportunity to grow.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the keys to patience, enjoying the journey itself. When we're able to find joy in each part of the process, even the small steps, it becomes easier to be patient because we're not just waiting to reach the end goal. We're also appreciating the journey along the way. Patience isn't just about putting up with the challenges, it's about finding value and meaning in each part of the learning experience. So, to everyone listening, remember to take it one step at a time, set realistic goals, celebrate each little victory, and use resources that support and inspire you. With these practical strategies, you'll find that patience becomes not just a tool, but a part of the journey that makes learning truly rewarding.
Beautifully said, Julia. Learning truly is a journey, and patience is what helps us enjoy every part of it. So, keep those practical tips in mind. Break learning into small steps, set achievable goals, celebrate each step forward, and use supportive resources like the English Globe. By practicing these strategies, you'll not only make progress in learning English, but also build patience as a lifelong skill. And remember, every step, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal. So take your time, enjoy the process, and celebrate your journey every step of the way. So far, we've talked a lot about the theory behind patience and strategies for building it. But sometimes, hearing real-life stories or examples of people who succeeded because they were patient can be just the inspiration we need. When we see that others have faced the same struggles we're facing, but kept going and achieved their goals, it reminds us that we're capable of doing the same. Let's start with some well-known examples from people who, through patience, managed to reach incredible levels of skill and success in their fields. One story that comes to mind is J.K. Rowling, the famous author of the Harry Potter series. She faced years of rejection before finally getting her book published, but she stayed patient and kept believing in her work. Her story shows that with patience, determination, and a bit of resilience, we can overcome obstacles, even when it feels like success is far away.
That's a great example, Adam. J.K. Rowling is such an inspiration, especially when we think about how hard it can be to stay patient in the face of setbacks. Another example that comes to mind is Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, who faced numerous rejections in his career, whether it was from universities, jobs, or investors. He wasn't successful overnight, but he kept learning, adapting, and working hard, even when things looked tough. His patience helped him build Alibaba into one of the world's largest e-commerce platforms. What's remarkable is that he never stopped learning or growing, even when progress seemed slow. I think Jack Ma's story is a reminder to all of us that success isn't instant. It's built on small, consistent efforts over time. That's especially true for learning English or any skill. Each day we practice, we're building up our knowledge bit by bit, even if we can't see the full picture right away.
Exactly, Julia. These stories show us that patience is not just about waiting. It's about persevering and putting in consistent effort, even when we don't see immediate results. And speaking of learning English, there are so many stories of people who have become fluent in English through years of dedication and practice. One famous example is Shakira. She's known worldwide as a talented singer, but when she was first starting out in the US, she didn't speak English. She spent years practicing, taking lessons, and slowly building her skills until she could speak fluently. Today, she's able to perform and speak in English effortlessly. Her journey reminds us that language learning is a long process, and with patience, anyone can achieve fluency.
I keep messing up the grammar rules.
That's part of the process.
But I try so hard.
Effort is good. Expecting perfection too soon isn't.
So I should just accept mistakes.
Accept them as steps forward, not failures.
It feels like I take one step forward, then 2 steps back.
That's how learning works until one day you don't step back as much.
But how do I stay patient?
By noticing progress, even the small things.
Like what?
Maybe today you corrected yourself faster than yesterday.
I guess I did fix one sentence without thinking.
That's growth.
But I want to be fluent already.
Fluency isn't a switch, it's a build.
What if I never get there?
If you keep going, you will. If you stop, you won't.
So patience is just not quitting.
Not just that, it's trusting the process even when progress feels slow.
That's hard.
That's why patience is a skill too.
So patience is a skill too.
Yes, just like learning English.
But how do I practice patience?
By shifting how you see progress.
What do you mean?
Instead of waiting for big changes, notice the small ones.
But small changes feel too small.
Add them up. A few small changes today, a few more tomorrow. That's how mastery happens.
But what if I don't see any changes?
Then look closer. Did you understand me faster than last week?
Maybe a little.
Did you hesitate less before answering?
Yeah, I think so.
That's progress.
But it doesn't feel like enough.
Why?
Because I still make mistakes.
Making mistakes doesn't mean failing. It means learning.
But I don't like mistakes.
Nobody does, but avoiding them slows you down.
How?
If you're afraid to try, you practice less. If you practice less, you improve slower.
So mistakes actually help.
Every mistake teaches you something if you pay attention.
But it's frustrating.
Frustration means you care. It means you're pushing yourself.
So feeling frustrated is good.
It's a sign of growth, but don't let it stop you.
How do I keep going when I feel stuck?
Remind yourself why you started.
I want to be fluent.
Why?
So I can travel, talk to people, maybe even study abroad.
That's your motivation. Hold on to it.
But motivation fades.
That's why discipline matters more.
So I just keep showing up.
Yes, even on hard days, especially on hard days.
And one day, I'll be fluent.
If you keep going, yes.
Even if it takes years.
Every fluent speaker was once a beginner who didn't quit.
So patience means trusting that I'll get there.
Exactly. Trust the process, trust yourself, and keep moving forward.